Okay, great. You guys hear that on your end too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, all right. So, the question is whether I was gonna tease you and start with this paint, with this
Oh,
picture when we came on, and I was like, no, I shouldn't do that because Grace is gonna want to draw it, and I don't think we're gonna draw it today.
you're right.
Unless you want to try to warm up with this one. Should we do a quick gesture sketch with this one? I'll
You,
set I'll
you did.
um I don't know. I think we could do a quick warm up. It's not gonna hurt anybody. I'll just talk. We won't do a whole finished thing, but I'll talk through it. Ooh, does this hot pink show up? Sort of.
No,
I have this crazy
Oh.
color.
yeah, I guess it shows up.
Yeah, I might have to go a little more traditional.
I'm back. I'm so sorry.
All right, cool. Let's do it. I gotta get this thing out of here. Okay, so I am gonna actually set the timer for 10 minutes. So this will just truly be a gesture. And I think it'll be fun and healthy to do. Every single one of my classes, when I was in art school, began with a 10-minute, with like 2 10-minute gestures. And I got so accustomed to it. So let's do it. All right, I'm gonna set the timer right here. All right, so with figures, you try to find the angle of the shoulders, and then you basically were looking for a head, rib cage, and then pelvis. Now, what makes this one so interesting is that so much of her is concealed by the tutu and also by the angle. So when we look at the rib cage, we're actually looking at the top of the rib cage, if you can believe that. So a lot of times rib cages can be seen as ovals, but here I'm going to use it as like a curved box, like a turning. So I found the angle of the top, the front of the clavicles, and then the back from shoulder to shoulder, and then out of that top plane, you're going to get this ellipse, which is the neck, and her head is tilted way back. So the kind of like the cylinder that is the neck, springs out of it, and it's all giving us this curve from the spine. And then because she's lit from below, and because her head is tilted so far back, we're actually seeing like kind of this double chin area, where you have the chin, and then you have the space from the chin to the neck. I call it the double chin. And we'll try to do the face as if it's a mask. So we got mouth, we've got the nose, we've got the eyes, very, very simplified, just dots for eyes, nose, mouth. I guess I did do a triangle underneath. If you look underneath, the stage lights are coming from the front of the stage, a row on the front lip of the stage. So the light source is down here shining up, at our figure. So all the underplanes are light and all the upper planes are in shadow. So there's a little bit of a reverse there. All right. So I want to get into the arms, but she has this little tank top, fuzzy tank top blouse on. And so I need to actually draw the fabric, because that is the kind of the transition into the arms. And a lot of the movements of those joints are hidden, to kind of almost create a disconnect between the limbs and the torso. And you can kind of get like movements that feel independent of each other. And there's like kind of an elegance and a grace to that, which is very, it's just like part of the medium that is ballet. All right, so I'm just going to use a rectangle from shoulder to elbow. Use a trapezoid from elbow to wrist. Use a very narrow, very delicate wrist rectangle. So elbow to wrist, then draw the wrist. And then we'll do another change of direction. So at each one of these, the shoulders to the elbows, there's a slight change of direction in the mass. And then you get the elbow to the wrist. There's not much of a change of direction from the forearm to the wrist, but it's a clear shape distinction. So it's a trapezoid into a rectangle. And then at the wrist, we'll change to get the rectangle for the palm. And then the fingertips, which we're just going to create like the mitten. Her thumb is tucked, so the thumb actually overlaps the palm. Okay, let's see what we can do on the other side. The reason I'm holding off on doing this larger S curve all the way down into the stand leg is because there's so much disconnect between the torso, the pelvis, and ultimately what we see in the leg. And Degas uses enormous amounts of distortion in that respect, for the suggestion of movement. And it's like you can hide a lot of sin, as they would say, underneath all of those flowers and ruffles and plumage of the dress. And the sin would be the anatomical incongruities, the actual, the anatomical distortions that he's able to kind of get away with to create a more elegant design. And I'll try to see if I can explain that a little further, but let's just get this other arm. We've got some really extreme foreshortening. The hand on this, I want to almost imagine that she's holding like a little bell between her thumb and forefinger. Like there feels like there's a little bit of an intention on the back end, but it's unbelievable the amount of detail that gets minimized there. So let's just break it down into shapes. So we'll go shoulder to elbow, then that elbow to the wrist is an extremely foreshortened form, and then the wrist into the hand is essentially unrecognizable. So I've got this kind of mashup of wrist, forearm, palm, and then fingers and fingertips. Something else. But yeah, we're going to be able to come back in and shade those even within 10 minutes. Okay, let's get into that waist. So we're going to go from these shoulders. We're going to drip down. She's got a very low cut blouse. And then there's a little bit of a shadow in between her breasts. And then we've got the the whole picture is keyed in this high intensity red, almost pointillist execution of those flowers. Then we get her waistband. So you want to think about the way a belt would wrap all the way around this high waisted arrangement. And yeah, this is fantastic. Okay, cool. So the form that I'm looking for is almost like a lampshade, and I'll see if I can explain it. There's going to be 3 layers of this lampshade. So the lampshade would kind of be like the waist would be the top, and then you'd have 1 layer, and then you'd have 2 layers, and then you have 3 layers. And there's this, the lamp that's on the inside. Now, imagine if you were just like an umbrella, like a cocktail umbrella. You just open up that. You just like open the umbrella. Yeah. So that's where we're going to get we want to think in terms of those cylindrical layers. So there's one layer which is, attached to the waist that has its own, smattering of beautiful, colorful high notes of the flowers. We're going to get the second layer, which takes us very close to the outside. And then the third layer, and where you can actually see the steps is step 1, step 2, and then step 3. So we can really see that 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers along this right side silhouette. And then there's going to be some radiating lines, of course, that help give us that the folded fabric. But those marks only make sense when you see them in that the umbrella. I think the umbrellas might be the best metaphor. This this edge is really sharp down here, which is interesting. It looks as though, it's probably because her leg is kicked back. So if you look at her front leg, this is her stand leg. We're gonna get into that in 1 second. But in order for the I think in order for these ruffles back here to make sense and to be up so high, her left leg is actually pushing that back up. Her glutes on the other side. And I'm surprised that, in fact, that we are not seeing any of that back leg, but it must be directly behind her. All right. So because there is a disconnect with through the tutu, we could attempt to build the anatomy, but I think it's just going to wind up being frustrating and throwing us down the wrong path. So where I'm going to go is I'm going to actually begin with the known. I'm going to find our first component of anatomy that's known from the waist down to the leg. And it's going to be this knee block right here. It's right above kind of the transparent edge of the tutu. So we have this knee block. It pinches in until we get to the oval of the calf muscle. And then you can follow that outside of the shin down into the trapezoid of the ankle. And then at that ankle, it turns back in and gets this, we've talked about it before, but you have this like rounded heel, almost rainbowing into the ball of the foot. And then you get the toe. The ballet slippers violate the kind of the nature of the actual foot for the sake of beauty. And this is the other difficult thing about the way I'm drawing right now too, is that she is a light ballerina up against a neutral dark background. So all these lines that I'm using are dark marks on white paper. And I don't know if you can even see this, but the leg, I have currently like a dark leg up against a light ground. So just flipping that value relationship can make the drawing might even seem, not correct. But again, it's just a gesture. We're just like thinking through this. We've got about, 2 minutes left in our little sequence. Cool. So we got through that. We got some flowers. We've got the leg kicked back up. Let's see if we can detail the face a little bit. This is really, really kind of fun. I like to, I'm recording. Yeah, thanks. As I think about the anatomy of the cylinder of the neck, coming out of the rib cage, that direction is echoed by the actual choker that she's wearing, the decorative choker. So I can de-emphasize the anatomy and I can emphasize the fashion. So that comes up. And then we'll get just an indication of the tie from that choker, and that is really giving us a lot of movement, that is elevated. So she's taken a position and She's currently in motion, and that fabric reflects that. Okay, cool. So now on a little closer examination of the face, I'm trying to add the hair. Her head is turned to our left. So she's looking harder to the left. So we get kind of a lost profile on the left, and we're getting actually more face on the right. And I don't think I drew it incorrectly necessarily, but as I draw the silhouette, I am cropping off a little bit of that left side. And then I'm going to add that ear down here. And now I can get this thin frame of hair around her head. It goes in front of the ear on the top, and then wraps around, goes behind the ear on the bottom. And then you can actually draw this is what's kind of nice. The face is a light face up against the dark of her hair. Eyes, nose, mouth, profile, bangs, and then she's got this little tiara decoration that matches the oh, I almost forgot that. That's great. Okay, sorry people. When I did the mouth, I got the nose, I got the eyes, just little shading, and then there's the eyebrows. Oh, nice. They're definitely a little lighter. And then you have forehead, and then you have the frame of the bangs. So I guess you're actually seeing way more of the face than it looks. It's not quite as foreshortened as I think it initially conceived of it. All right. Just for giggles here, let's if we throw this light up from the bottom, we can start to think about the top of the shoulders being in shadow. The top of the little dimple, not really dimple, but it's a divot between the bicep and the forearm that goes in shadow. The whole top of the wrist here. Oh God, that was loud. Is that loud on your end?
No.
No, not especially.
Okay, it was incredibly loud here. The top of the bicep is in shadow. The top of the forearm on the left side is in shadow. The top of the flat part of the palm, and then all the way to the fingertips. Oh, nice. Cool. The whole top plane of this blouse actually is in shadow. Top of the deltoids. A little triangle divot at the pit of the neck. You can see the clavicles heading back. There's a little bit of a shadow even underneath the top of the lampshade. So with this leg, I'm trying to eliminate all of the suggestions that there's a disconnected set of shapes. So, I drew the leg being separate forms from the knee to the calf to the ankle to the foot, and I need to bring them together. And even in a gesture, it's not an unreasonable thing. I found it. I found my tortillon.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. I think we were disciplined enough. There's a dag that would be really nice. I just started adding the this dark tonal background, and it just made her dress pop so much. It would be painful to move on. The background is darker, but it's not that dark. I mean, if you consider how dark a lot of brown school painters would go. Degas was really on the transition from these like very neutral, high contrast, meaning not high intensity colors, but high lights and darks, extreme lights and extreme darks. And even in this painting, Degas, I think he actually pushes he's still in the spirit of pushing the high contrast. So he's got light lights and dark darks, but they're in small isolated areas, and that allows him to kind of turn up the chroma and the high intensity colors for the flowers, in those areas. But if you look at the background, the background's not super high intensity. And I think I'm gonna, there was a lot of suggestion structurally in the tutu, and as much as I made the formal kind of expression of those, separate stages of the lampshade, I can, eliminate those divisions as well, where they are, and that's kind of on the left side is where they're separated. And then where they have some more intense definition is on that right side. Some with some aggressive strokes, others with tone, and then and even still with flowers. Oh, that's neat. That cleaned up nicely.
That looks really good.
The whole underplane of her eyes, and her upper part of her cheeks, like if you imagine, where the light, normally where you would hit the light, everything's in reverse. So normally where the chin goes into shadow, that's in the light. Where this triangle below the eye, almost where you would put the eye black. In football, you put eye black on that part of your face because the light comes from up above, hits that plane, and bounces back up into your eyes, forcing your pupils to get smaller because there's more light. If you get smaller, it lets in less light, so you can't see as well. So you put eye black there so that your pupils get wider and you're able to see, and the ball better and perform better. That's the theory, at least, and it does work. Yeah, at this stage, I am just going to do what I would call is, punch my lights, punch my darks. There's this beautiful light at the very tip of her ballet slipper, and I just love it. I could intensify that choker slightly. I blended out that background. There's some highlights behind. The top of it feels more flowy. The bottom of it feels almost like a zigzag. The area of highest contrast, which is what I call zone 1, it would be her face. It's this whole shape of the underside of her chin and her neck up against the high contrast of those lines that are the choker and the ribbon and the bow. And that really is a beautiful area of light and dark right near her face. It's almost like it makes the details of her face are very subdued, but still that little profile of her face calls an enormous amount of attention because of that contrast to the values. Look at that. I mean, I've drawn it 4 times and it looks different every time. All right, not bad. How are you guys doing?
Kind of muddy.
You're what?
Kind of muddy, I find. I think I muddied it by
By doing
filling in the background.
Yeah.
Lost
So
a lot of contrast.
So come back in and draw with your eraser. So it's what I did with her tutu. I came in and I just came in, and you can actually define the edge now of the dress with a eraser.
Yeah.
And that will make it pop a little bit more, and you'll maintain your lights, your lights.
Well, it's a way also to make the edge really more feathery.
Totally. Oh wow. Yeah, look at her finger. Her fingers are kind of spread out on that left side. I hadn't noticed that. Looks like she's wearing some bracelets too. I haven't seen that. Oh, look at that up there. Oh my God. Look at that. So there's a bracelet exactly at, remember how I was drawing the form? It's like exactly at that transition moment.
Right.
Good for us. Well, good for him. And good for her. Good all around. Oh, look at that. Okay. So I was focusing on the lights. And then if you look at the silhouetted edge, there's actually a mid-tone. So there's like a dark halo that happens here. And so this is the actual separation, I think. And then it's so subtle. Because in order to turn this corner, the tutu actually goes very dark. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Do you see what I'm talking about? I'm looking at this rim right here.
Yeah.
Like lights, and then dark mid-tone, and then just dark.
How do you even do that?
You could, you just have to, if we're working on white paper, you gotta leave your lights and then kind of meld together. It's a very low jump between the shadow of the tutu and then the background of the tutu. So that's just, the values are just so close together. And you can still, I mean, to the point where I thought that was the edge when it really wasn't. It almost reads a little bit like a mistake, but I mean, again, these are all, from books, and we're not there in person, and the paintings look so different in person. I mean, it's just incredible.
Right.
So it's not, you can't even get an accurate judge, I would say, of his decisions. But you can get the spirit of it, so that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Can I see what you guys did? I'm not mad at Stacy, but I wish she was here. She said she was gonna be here.
She's missing something she would like. Yeah. All
It's
right.
totally something she would like.
Here's mine. Get it over with.
All right, let me stop this share. Grace, you're too
Oh,
much.
nice.
It's very nice. It's very
Yeah,
nice.
you really captured her.
Yeah,
I
she's
can't
got a
get-
wonderful pose, and it feels for some reason I have no idea why, and it is the it has like a Spanish flair. Maybe it's the all of the larger floral decorations in the front.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. On the top of the head.
Mhm. She's great though.
To get the face tilted that way. Yours is so great.
It's so hard. It's so not easy. Adele,
Yeah.
how'd you do? Yeah, cool. Yes,
Oh,
I like the
nice.
yeah, she's really got there's really a wonderful sense of that light, because you were able to push the contrast, I think, turned up a
Mm.
little bit compared to Grace's and mine. You went one notch darker, and that the contrast makes a difference.
The tutu
But it-
really looks fluffy.
Well, that's the eraser. That's the kneaded eraser.
Mhm.
Going in and
Yeah, that really helped to sort of feather the bottom edge a little bit more. But when I put the background in, it suddenly got muddy and I got scared.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
See-
you could design her inside of a circle. I'm
Yeah.
seeing like the rounded.
Yeah, like
And-
an oval cameo. Huh, that would be fun.
yeah, it's interesting too, because she's really not grounded, and I can go back, we can look at it with that. I hadn't even considered it really. Screen share. Usually there's like an intense shadow on the ground, and there might be some
There's a tiny bit of shadow under her foot. You're right.
and maybe even a little bit of a reflection. So if this is the dark note,
Yeah.
then there could be a little bit of a light glow as well. So almost like a polished dance floor, looking like a supporting. Some of these lines over here, look at how not parallel. I mean, not like how level some of these marks are up at that tutu. I mean, look at the vectors and the strokes that he makes. I mean, they do radiate, but they radiate almost in terms of panels in it. So you guys are gonna probably, I mean, for the sake of the drawing, for the sake of the lesson, I'm going to do this, but you can break her dress into paneling, and so just so you can conceive of it, and then that can help guide the directional. Then this goes in and then back out, and then this goes in and then back out, and then you have this very foreshortened steep panel over here, and it does turn the corner all the way around, in term like solar panels, and then if you were a designer, a fashion designer, you'd be able to understand how that was stitched together and the length of each one. But yeah, that is a little. And of course, they don't have clear ends, so there is not a straight line defining the edge. And I think the ephemeral nature of the transparent fabric is part of the fun of a tutu. The fact that it does feel so airy. and non-defined and cloud-like.
Yeah. Like especially over her right arm. See how it's just floating behind? Very undefined.
Oh my gosh, totally. There's no clear separation between, it almost trails off into,
Yeah.
the background.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw this, but
Oh,
look
that's a really good thought. Yeah.
what did you say?
Yeah, that's a really good thought to have it continue behind her hand. Oh, yeah. It really makes it a circle skirt rather than a.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it goes
Ooh,
all the way
cool. I like
around.
that.
It gives that
Um,
smoky feel.
Yeah.
look
See,
at
I
the
see her knee. I see her left knee being in that, like, where the flowers are on her bodice.
her
If you
left
go,
knee.
no,
Lifted.
Oh, this?
if you go up to the flowers, right there where your pencil is, I
Yeah.
see her knee coming down almost exactly along like the white top of your pencil.
Mm,
Her knee coming, you see her, or her thigh coming out
yeah.
that direction, and then the calf is turned back.
Mm.
Cool.
That might be
Like
what's holding
the,
the tutu up there. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. The other wild thing is, I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, but look at how close. If this is the shape, look at how close. There's a girl standing back here, in that, first position or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So close to her face. Almost dangerously close. I might have made it a little closer to emphasize it, but yeah, those are just some really audacious moves, I feel like. Mhm, mhm. All right, cool. All right, let's see what we can do with my. Let's just like look at some of these. So I have this Degas book, and I'm just gonna. Are we ready to make the move?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't live with myself. I have to lighten these planes a little bit. I can leave the suggestions of them, but
She must have gauze on her shoulders also because it's very smoky there as well.
Yeah.
yeah, I'll agree. And how you suggest that with the pencil will be different than the way he did in this oil.
Right.
Oh no, and it's not even an oil; it's a pastel.
Oh.
All right. So let's just talk about it. So, what I'm trying to do, just to like full disclosure, I mean, I am trying to prove that the painting that I have is a Degas, and I've been kind of looking through, my source material to kind of make the case. Where is that? Ooh, Greg from Meritage. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Would this work? Zoom in even more. Okay. Oh man. Let's see if I can move this a little bit. It's gonna get better or worse. All right. You guys ready to fire this up? Did you guys have the do you have the printout?
Yep.
All right, cool. What do you think? Should we draw it first or should we talk about it first?
Hmm.
Can we do it at the same time?
Yeah, I think we can. Let's figure out how to, let's figure out how to do it. Got some good papes, got some good papers. I think I have to decide on a scale. That's the other, it's not, I'm gonna call it tricky, but that's definitely one of the concerns. I think I might have to start at a consistent scale. Move this over here. All right. So the thing that I think is so interesting, I think this piece is in fact true. Like I think it is a Degas, and I do need to figure out how to. I'm going to tape this down. I think the part that we're gonna be able to draw will be, I think, about this much. I think we should try to draw this much now. Or should we try to draw the whole damn thing?
Let's start with this much and see where we go.
Let's start with this much. And then I'll see what we can. Yeah, let's not try to save the world. Let's just draw her. Let's just draw her. Hmm. Yeah, I made her. I think I lined her up crooked. All right, cool. So I have, so the references that I have printed, I have, so let me just tell you what I have, and then we'll keep, and then we'll just try to see where we can go. I have this, what I'm working on here is this printed piece of paper, which I think will keep my drawing at the right size. I have this digital reproduction, which allows us to kind of like zoom in and do all of these types of, like intense analysis if we needed to like kind of go in and, think about how, the tear duct transitions into the upper eyelid, the upper eyelid and like the softness of the fold, what type of note describes the sclera, what is the transition between the lower eyelid, and the bag of the eye versus, the sclera, and, how is that lower eyelid cropping off, the iris and the pupil, where is the pupil relative to the dark sides of the iris on either side, those types of things. If I were to try to go off of this screen, zooming in and zooming out, I don't think anything would be possible. So even though this is printed and it doesn't allow me to, zoom in as much, it will set up, I believe, the success of our initial engagement with this portrait. And I can move this up and down. We can get a sense of her scarf versus her collar versus her choker, and then some of the earrings and things, and then some of the nature of the decoration in her hair. Where's the separation between the hat and then the flowers versus the hair? I'm going to turn this up a little bit brighter, and I think we'll be all right. So it'll be kind of a relatively traditional approach to beginning the portrait, and we'll just round out all of these, all of the things that are included in a portrait, and then we'll see by copying what Degas did, we will then have this like sense of how what techniques he was using, and then once we have a sense of the techniques that he was using with this exact piece, then we're going to go around to other Degas paintings. We'll travel through the examples that I have in this book. Well, while relatively narrow, are actually very, very insightful. What happened? The point that I'm trying to make is that every artist has a kind of a code of mark making. They have systems that allow them to be efficient and to have their paintings be efficient, but also be recognizable. You have your own way of executing a portrait that's different than Manet, which is different than Morisot, which is different than Cassat, which is different than everyone has their own kind of hand and their own signature. And then some of it is handwriting, some of it is systems in terms of how you set up your sitters in your studio, how you light those sitters, how you limit the amount of colors that you paint with, how you diversify the range of mark making, thin to thick, and different paint treatments for different problems. The way that you paint flowers is different than the way you paint lips, which is different than the way you paint cheeks, which is different than the way you paint fabric folds on a sleeve. So they're all, and the way that those solutions are developed by the artist come from their ingenuity, come from their experience, come from their artistic background. So there's a whole lineage of concepts that are employed. And so I guess what I'm trying to do with this exercise is to get us introduced to the Degas vocabulary of mark making through the this little sketch, and then see if we can go and see where it was done similarly, and then also how it was done differently in other examples of his art. All right, so I think, and this is just an excuse for us to learn how to do the portrait too. Now, I do apologize because, I think well, I've had people not say the most flattering things about this portrait. So it may not be a Degas ballerina, but I think it is in fact a Degas painting. All right, so let's do first things first. So in order for my figure to fit on the paper, I have to go almost 1-to-1. So that's a little bit different for you all. So the way that I would, draw a portrait would not be starting from the back of the head. But the reason I'm starting from the back of the head is so that I can make sure that I have room to fit all of the things. So what I'm really hoping to get to first is, I've said this in my mind, I call it the face mask. It's the if you were to wear a hockey mask, it's the exposed skin on the face. It's defined by the bangs on the top of the forehead, defined by the sideburns and the temple hair. And then it's the jaw line into the chin. So I'm trying to get this set up so that I can then find my center. The center of the face. Where would this be bilaterally symmetrical? And then that's going to lead us into the angle of these eyebrows, which will then in turn give us the keystone. And if we can place our keystone, which is the area in between the eyebrows where the unibrow would be, and the inside of this socket. So it's the front plane. It is the inner part of the socket that will lead us down into the tear duct. And then it will also give us a starting point for the nose. That's pretty good. Try to bring her face in here a little zoomed in. We've got the angle of this eyebrow, the angle of this eyebrow, and then we've got the rectangle of the keystone, which is actually a little bit shaded out. It's, he considers it a down plane, so it's in shadow. And then we'll get the top of the nose leading into the ball of the nose, into the septum. That septum is going to reverse curve into the philtrum. And then from that philtrum, we'll get to what I would consider a relatively swollen upper lip. Her lips are actually very full. And they're kind of equally full on the top and the bottom. The bottom might feel a little bit bigger because there's a shaded underplane and then a brighter top plane. But there's a dark shadow in between the lips, and they cascade down into the teardrop corner of the mouth. Cool. If I zoom in a little bit further, do you see all these white specks in here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the underpaint. That is the raw canvas kind of showing through. They are much more prominent in this photo than, in this particular photo than when you see it in real life. Let's see if I can find so this is what it looks like in person. Do you see that? Like you basically don't even notice them. Isn't it amazing that that's the same portrait?
Yeah.
Yeah, so paintings were meant to be seen in particular light, and when you photograph them in different light, then all of a sudden things change that you may not have intended. In terms of it looks better as a painting than it does as a photograph, naturally. All right. And do you guys have this photo up right now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. All right, so we have to this is, I admit that this is a little bit of eating our vegetables here, but I'm gonna try to quickly move through the vegetable phase so we can get into some of the shading and some of the more exciting, some of the more exciting parts. And you guys, do you mind if I go fast?
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So we'll do the keystone, and then we've got the inner part of the keystone. So what I was saying is that it launches us into the upper eyebrow, which angles up, across, and down in extreme foreshortening on that right side. And then it's going to go up on the left, and then it goes across ever so slightly, and then diffuses into the sausage. All right, so we'll go from keystone down the inside of the keystone into the socket, and then we'll get to the little tear duct, which in this case is dark. We're going to get the upper eyelid coming up and then across down to the side. So she has some dark eyelashes, and mainly because she doesn't really have some intense dark notes for the lower eyelid, I'm going to almost define the lower eyelid by seeing where the iris gets cropped off. So I'm going to put in her, the circle for the iris, and the iris is cropped at the top of the upper eyelid as well as the bottom. So the only way we're going to see the circle of that iris is to see the curve on the right from maybe 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and then even smaller on the left. Basically at 9 o'clock is where we see it. I know that there's a pupil in there, and then I also know that her iris are relatively dark. The sclera, which is the white of the eye in between the tear duct and the iris, is this most beautiful light blue, neutral blue stroke that's like perfectly placed. That is one of the moments that we're going to look for as being kind of classical Degas, or not classical Degas, but typical Degas. All right, so we've got the upper eyelid, we've got the iris, the pupil, the sclera on both sides. And then in order for this lower eyelid to really read, I'm going to shade the underplane of that lower eyelid, being careful not to come up completely to the iris. Great. So we have this lower eyelid. The upper eyelashes are so dark that they almost overpower completely the fold of the upper eyelid. When the eyelid is open, there is a crease. And depending on the the nature of the eye, the nature of the eyelid, the sitter, the light, all of those factors contribute to how, and the decision of the artist actually, how prominent that fold of the upper eyelid is. And then the upper eyelid is going to lead into the sausage, And now I'm going to redefine where my initial indications of my eyebrow is, because the space between the upper eyelid and the eyebrow is way bigger than I have it at the moment. Nice. My God, that's great. That plane that I was just talking about in between the eye and the eyebrow ridge, I'm going to darken that. There is some interesting, shadow light. One of my teachers had dinner with Andrew Wyeth at one point, and there's a bunch of Andrew Wyeth said a couple of interesting things. Where it pertains to this one, he's like, good artists know what's happening in the lights. It's the great artists that pay attention to what's happening in the shadows. So
Yes.
and we'll be able to zoom in, and I think I'll actually show you right now. If this other piece of paper, oh, here it is. Okay, so here's a close-up of this eye that we're supposed to be drawing. Do you see this, like, this warm, soft, warm note that happens right underneath there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's that warmth in that shadow is, it's just, it makes it feel completely alive. There's that blue note that ever so slightly, that tick mark that happens. It's actually a two-tone shape. So you have a neutral gray, which defines the shape of the sclera, lower eyelid, tear duct, upper eyelid, edge of the iris. And then on top of that neutral shape, there's an even two lighter notes, like two ticks with a very fine tip brush, highlighting the sclera on that side. I believe he comes on the left side and defines it ever so slightly on that end as well. It's amazing. I mean, just amazing. The refinement of this portrait. And one of the things that I think is interesting too is, so you have the upper eyelid, and then, you have the eyelashes. So there's this plane of the upper eyelid. Then you have the upper eyelid, and this fold is kind of like, nullified. It's been kind of painted over and de-emphasized. That fold still leads back up into the sausage. So you get this underplane of the eyebrow hair, and then the eyebrow coming down into the original keystone. And one of the other things that's really important to know, that, like, it takes a certain type of refinement in portraiture to know that, the hair, there's these final dark notes of the hair, but there's a transitional mid-tone in between the flesh tone and the darkest part of the hair. So you can actually see where this hair is. It's kind of framed by this, a new, like a softer half skin tone, half eyebrow tone, which is not the inner shadow of the socket either. You're seeing that little transition zone here for the lower eyelid as well. So it's shadow, it's hair, and again, this painting is incredibly small. So there's there's a certain amount of abbreviation. It's not a miniature per se, but we're like almost moving into that territory. All right, cool. So, and I think it is, important to soften some of those lines as we go. All right, let's try to get this other side. So the other eyebrow comes down into the keystone, and that keystone now separates the there, you can't see on the other side, so the nose becomes a hard edge. And then on that other side emerges the upper eyelashes. And one of a very typical French style approach to doing upper eyelids, from the tear duct, you come up, you come across, and you come back down. 3 simple strokes. And you're actually starting in, coming out and up, and then across and over, and then back down and in. So it's angles down, but it's going back because you're going around like this, the sphere of the eyeball. So in that classical French style, it goes up, then it comes across, level, and then it's going to go down on this side. And that those eyelashes are almost extended really, really nicely in the eyelashes. So I think I made it overall too large. But the strokes are the same. 1, 2, 3. And then he does help give us the iris on the right side. The iris on the left side is on the other side of the nose. And then he does give us the lower eyelid, and he gets sclera on the right as well, and as in that very teeny far side. We're looking for the fold. You can start on the right and show the upper eyelid, or you can start on the left on the inside, come up and across. And that whole plane of the upper eyelid is in tone. Now, the silhouetted, and well, we won't quite get there yet, but we're going to have to link up the silhouette of the face, you know, from the sausage over here to the chin once we get down to the bottom. And the subtlety and the ambiguity, the controlled ambiguity of that profile along here is, you know, nothing to scoff at. It's just it's an absolute kind of masterful control, and you can see the warmth of the face, and then you can see the coolness of the background, and the values are almost exactly the same. So there's you can hardly even tell the difference between what's background and what's face. But if you follow it, it's all, the information is all offered. So, you know, when we talk about, you know, the you know, it's one thing what's going on, you know, in the light mass, and we'll define the properties of the nose and the cheeks and the lips. But this type of subtlety that's happening on the far side, shadow side of the face, and as it enters into the background, you know, very compelling. While we're here, notice that the lips are basically composed of, I think we'll break it down, but something close to 4 values. You have the deepest notes for the creases and like the shadows. Then you have midtones, which are actually relatively neutral. Then you have highlights on the bottom, and then you have these 1 or 2 touches. I don't know if you guys can see. Can you see these little ticks? These little maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 high intensity red dots in those lips that are brighter and bolder, that give this like flare of blood and life to the piece. And we're going to be looking for that later. That's also very kind of typical of Degas, you know, one of his techniques that he does. All right. So we did this profile of the nose, not the profile of the face. We'll do that later. It's interesting because the sausage is kind of a subtle mid-tone, and then the nose, in order to make the nose pop out, there's this, it's almost like this light line up against a dark background that allows the ball of the nose to stand out. So we're going to see the top plane, it's going to curve down to the front, and then it cuts under, and there's this little diamond where the septum begins, and then the septum continues under hard, and we're going to get the reverse curve of that septum into the philtrum. hope I'm not making her nose too big. I think I did. Gotta be careful because I don't want my drawing. I think my eyes might be already a little large. I can always zoom out. It's okay. But all right, we're gonna hit the nose, cut under. Get that little diamond that's still in the light, and then you can see how that septum comes down and then reverse curves into the philtrum. That philtrum is going to lead us down into Cupid's bow. And then we've got the lips, tear dropping into the corner of the mouth. Swollen at the bottom. All right. Got the front of the nose, ball of the nose, septum, and then we get the nostril hole, which is generally a bean. And then her nostril flares are very soft, and they're actually not drawn with darks, they're drawn with lights. So there's the little nasal fold here at the corner of the mouth, which is the dark note, and the nostril flare is the light note. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We got the upper eyelid, excuse me, we have the upper lip. And I'm really trying to show that this upper lip is darker than the lower lip, but where the lips are touching is the darkest. I think that's about as most as I'm going to be able to accomplish. This lower chin is sort of like pouty face, and there's a shadow shape that's created between the lip and that chin that I'm trying to tap into. And then the chin itself feels almost like a half moon. There's almost like this crescent moon core of the shadow. And then that chin then transitions into the double chin, which is as the chin transitions into the jaw, then that jaw elbows up towards the ear. Below the chin and below the jawline is this delicate shadow, and this part of the anatomy is so easy to leave out, and Degas does it so well in his other paintings that this is a particularly strong aspect of his work, actually, and it's displayed here nicely. So from the chin we get the area of the double chin, and then we get the section of her neck. And so hopefully I can make this clear. There's the chin, which has the crescent moon shadow. Then that chin transitions into the double chin, this like whole underplane that helps lead us into this V shape of the neck. Now, the neck takes on a V shape largely because of the collar. The collar, the black portion of the collar, is in a V design. So, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, the neck and the collar help make that V shape. And except for in the eyes and those darkest notes in the eyebrow, um, this little, I don't want to call it a choker, but the black part of the collar does go very, very dark, and it's going to transition into her, I think there's a bow that's tied in the back, and there's also her dark hair, and then her hat. So all of the darks of the far side of her face, and then the darks in her hair, and the collar are going to frame her face out nicely. Mhm. And you can really see how, there's that V shape from the chin into the neck, and then the collar. And it looks as though the collar actually like S curves up, almost mimicking the direction of the sternocleidomastoid. The part of her neck that's below the jawline is sternocleidomastoid. And there is a really marvelous impasto, meaning a very thick, juicy stroke for her earring. And it'd be interesting to see if we can, define what is, the white part of the collar and what is the earring. But I can't even believe how subtle some of these marks are. So I'm going to zoom out slightly here. So we did her nose. The ball of her nose is up here, and then I kept pointing out this kind of like triangle where the septum begins. So the ball of the nose is lighter, septum begins here, and then it hits the upper lip and it makes a reverse curve of the septum. And then that's going to lead us into the Cupid's bow. And then we'll have the upper lip and then the lower lip. And it is, I have to admit, it is pretty ambiguous. Her lips and then, the far side of her face. And then we get the notes that are not confused, but you do get a nice teardrop corner of the mouth, where the upper lip and the lower lip meet are darker. You have this shadow shape that it's created in between the lip and the chin. And then the core of the shadow on that chin is just marvelous. Now, there is the part of the skin that's basically in between the upper lip and the chin. So the chin is down here, the upper lip is up here. There's this little like transition area in between, which you artists have to consider. So look at the intentional brush strokes that are happening in this area when you do a portrait. You have the mustache region, you have the teardrop corner of the mouth, and then there's this like swelling, a musculature, lip transition, upper lip, and then it turns the corner, and then it goes into this, that brings you down into the chin. But look at this little triangle area in between the fleshy red part of the lips and then the round crescent moon of the chin. It's just an important kind of area to understand and to look for and to analyze. And when you're trying to, I think when we're trying to like correlate one Degas with another, these really subtle kind of off the beaten path anatomical analysis, I think are going to be kind of the game changers, because at to say that you make eyes the same way, Max Lieberman might make eyes this similar way. Bert Morisot might make eyes. Cassat may have made eyes that way. But there's this depth of intimacy that a painter has with portraiture, where it's beyond one thing. It's beyond 10 things. Once you get up to 60 things, there can be no more, it's no longer a coincidence. Like, how many proofs will you need? And I think this area around the face is going to be a really interesting tell as we, compare this piece to other pieces. All right, so then the whole point was going to get this crescent moon. So we have light, shadow, we have midtone. That chin is going to transition now into the jawline. And then the area underneath the jawline is the double chin, which is a much larger kind of region, and it's almost linear in this piece. It almost gives you a hard horizontal, then creating the V shape or triangle shape of the neck. The neck going from the edge of the double chin into the collar. Yeah. All of this impasto is just spectacular. Like, even this little, I don't know if you can see it zoomed in so hard, but there's this little part of the lace on the right versus this part of the lace on the left. This has been neutralized ever so slightly. So the intensity of this yellow, see how it's been mixed in with that blue? It pushes that collar back. So these bright notes, the bright, thick impasto, high intensity, yellow ochre, it's tinted. This is bright, and then these strokes, as they go back, that collar then, goes back that 6 inches to begin to turn around the neck on the far side. And when you can probably see it now when we're zoomed out, look at how that slight neutralization of that pigment makes that collar go back in space and move into the shadow, going around the back side of the neck. It's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh man, this is fun. Let's see if I can move this straight, then this needs to go back. Straight again. Mm-hmm. All right. That's unfortunate. Right now I need to push her forehead back. So let's talk about let's get to the ear. There's a couple different ways of getting to the ear, but I got distracted. I get distracted when I was thinking about that other stuff. All right, so I'm going to come down for this neck, and then I'm going to follow the black collar up. I'm going to allow the black collar to define the where the neck ends. It's going to lead us up to the ear. So when I show you the ear here, let me just draw and place the ear from the chin, and then I'll do the same thing when I go from the brow, and then I'll do the same from the corner of the sausage rather, and then I'll do the same thing when I come from the brow. So the ear is a really difficult thing to place and place properly. So the kind of the three-pronged attack would be to go from the known into the unknown. And with this face, we've gotten down to the chin. We're going to go up to the forehead and the hairline. And then from that hairline, we can go down through the temples into the ear. We can go from the sausage through the masseter, through the sideburns into the ear. And then we can also go from the chin through the jaw and then back up to the earlobe and then place the earlobe that way. So since we're already down here, let's go that method. So I'm going to go from the chin into the jawline, and then the jawline hits this curve, angles up, and then that's going to take us to the earlobe. I thought the ear was the least convincing. When I was looking at the portrait, I was blown away by the regular portrait as I was thinking about buying this thing. And it was the ear that was like, I don't know if Degas would have accepted that ear. So just to do the ear real quick in its abbreviated way, you have the earlobe, and then you have the helix coming up the side, entering back in. There's a thickness to that helix, and it turns. There's very little indication of the tragus or the antitragus, or the way that the helix attaches, or any of the anti-helix on the inside. So I found the ear extremely abbreviated, to the point of it being not done by Degas. And I will still use that as my principal proof that it is not, in fact, a Degas. But there's enough kind of abbreviated ears as I've been looking into it, that it is no longer a disproof. It's actually a formal proof. So from this ear, there's usually a little gap in between the helix and where the sideburns begin. And use a trapezoid for those sideburns, and then we'll get the temple hair. And then there's a little gap between the temple hair and the bangs. We'll go up that way. All right. All right, sorry guys, just got some text. Oh well.
She doesn't have a large forehead.
You said she doesn't have a large forehead?
It's not, yeah. Her
Yeah.
forehead is kind of short.
It is. So think about, I'm gonna do what I was going to do with, the beauty of the pencil is that it erases, but so I'm gonna almost violate my drawing for the sake of the planes. So we're gonna get the middle of the face, and above the eyebrows are these two aggressive planes, both foreshortened. And then those frame out this little, what Adele, this smaller orb, which is in fact the parietal eminence. And parietal eminence is really small. And then that turns the corner into the two planes of the temple. So the way that this parietal eminence turns into the sides of the temple and then transitions into temple hair, that'll be interesting. Now the other interesting factor is how those strokes that Degas uses to go from the front down the side and then transition into the cheekbones. The same way that you go from this upper lip, the nasal labial fold, and transition from the corner of the mouth, into the chin. These are all very, very subtle anatomical aspects that only a very select group of portrait painters have mastered and have had such facility. Anyway, so I think have made this forehead look too big, but that's just because it hasn't been toned yet. So let's just see if we can place these bangs. And from this version, I think it is a difficult read where the hat begins and the hair disappears. I have it's difficult to see. But look at this area above the eyes. So there's this central plane coming up, and those are those two planes that I made. And then you have the parietal eminence, which is the forehead, and it's got a highlight, it's got a light mass, it transitions into a very subtle shadow mass, and then it's up against the bangs of the hair that pass on the behind it on the other side. So the forehead comes in front of those bangs. All right. So here's this kind of this grand finale. Let me show it on the zoomed in one, and we can not not panic. So what we've got, what I'm really looking to do is to go from the eyelashes here. We have the upper eyelid, and then we have the sausage. And then we need to go from the upper cheek and basically define the silhouetted edge. You have this cheek into the corner of the mouth and then down into the chin. So to go down this side, and it's very, tonal and very subtle, ambiguous. So we're basically going to be almost lost and found the whole way. Like the eyebrow is clearly a dark up against the light. The upper eyelid is lost. So there's a warm up against the cool. That's the only value separation between this upper eyelid. Eyelashes are darker. The cheek on the below the eyelid, that's a warm against a cool. These are synonymous by the nose. So to make that nose pop, there can't be anything competing with it. So the reason that the skin and the silhouetted edge of the background, there's no clear definition, is so that nose is allowed to pop forward with zero distractions. So because the nose is so prominent, we don't need to know what is going on the silhouetted edge of the face. I mean, that artistic choice and control is really something. Now you get a warmer cheek as you come down here. So this is, I would argue, this is even I'd say it's still dark against light, but the warm is so much warmer, and the cool becomes so much bluer. Now that contrast between warm and cool is significant. It's nothing compared to the brightness that's on the lips. So you have a contrast of color and value with the lips, and then you have a more subtle contrast between the warm and the cool of the silhouetted edge of the face. And the silhouetted edge of the face is allowed to stay back because of its low contrast and because of its low chroma, meaning it's it's warm and it's cool, but it's not black and bright red. Hold on, I'm gonna let this dog out. There you go, Alice. Yeah, you want down? Yeah, you stay here. Okay. Hopefully that can explain
Yeah,
where we're going here.
good.
Yeah, that was really nice. I was whether it's a Degas or not, I'm certainly complimenting the painting a lot.
Yeah.
whoever Whoever did it. Oh, that was too close. Hello. Focus. Sorry. There we go. All right. So yeah, I will pull this forehead back even further. We'll distinguish in our mind at least whether it's true or not. We'll pay for it later. Hat and bangs and hat. I also think it'd be good to, well, let me just do the profile of the face. All right, so we got the extra long eyelashes, some quiet face, chilled background, cheek, full cheeks, very quiet around that nose. Oh, Bales, don't. What, you want some food? I can't give you any food. All right, well, the icing on the cake is like so close. We're so close. And by icing, I mean, I truly mean like the impasto icing. So we've got the bangs of the hair, which I think if we just invest a little bit. So what we're going to need to do for what's going on with this, you're basically everything that's not her face, is you have hair, and then you have hat, and then you have elements that are attached to the hat, whether it be ribbon or flowers. And I think that's what we got to figure out. And the dark shapes, I think the way I've set it up right here is we've got her hair, and then I'm going to go dark with this hat back here. And they can be close, but the shading is what makes the face pop. And especially when we don't have colors to work with.
Is that a hat or is that?
It's a very amorphous hat. Maybe it's a bonnet. It's a, like a lace bonnet kind of thing.
Yeah.
Flowers in it.
I don't know. I mean, those lumpy things at the back almost look like it's, those hats that are made of sort of fur and they have those bumps. Hard to describe.
Degas did what's really awesome about this piece is that this is actually very typical of the fashion of the time. And I'll try to I'm kind of screwing up right here. Not screwing up, but like I really wanted to maybe can we just take a break on her for a second and just look at some other paintings?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I have to go kind of right at noon. I'm expecting this important phone call, which is so frustrating.
Oh, she's got curls, rivulet curls, and it's all pulled up, and that's why they they are hanging down like that.
Yes, I don't know. You mean that's like all of her hair? You think it's all hair?
Uh,
No.
I don't know.
Stacy,
Hi.
how are you
Ah.
doing?
Hey.
Okay, how is everyone?
All right.
I lost my voice.
No,
Oh no.
I don't know where it went, but I'm hoping to find it soon.
you're not sick, are you?
No.
No. It happens sometimes. I've been yelling too much at Tuk Tuk. That's
Good
not
boy.
true. That's really not true. No, not good boy. So I'm literally doing 500 things, one of which is taking Tuk Tuk out. So I'm listening to everything.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Can you? So I need to turn my not volume, but what's it called? I need to mute myself. So
Okay.
I'm here, even though you might not hear me, and I know that makes everyone sad, but I'm here.
It does.
Yeah, because we need your opinion on her hairdo. Tell us what's going on with her hair.
Yeah, we kind of do, but that's all right. You don't have to. We can.
Okay, let me put my glasses on first, really, really fast.
So check out this lady's hair.
Hold on one sec.
So this one, this portrait, you can kind of see a little bit. You can kind of tell the difference between her hair and the hat because it's made of a different material. Actually, look at these two.
Okay. She's sucking her thumb.
It looks like it.
It does
Isn't
look
it?
like it. I
Yeah.
think she's in thought.
Yes.
See, now here's here's another set of examples.
Okay. Oh,
So that's someone with a hat, and then this is someone else with a bun.
yeah. Nice highlights. Right?
Yeah. So what's that one?
Tell me you've recorded this entire class.
Yes.
Yes.
We did, yeah, we actually did.
Oh, yes.
So this is the so look this is a Degas portrait. These two guys.
Oh, love that.
Hold on one second. I have to take this call. Actually, no, I don't. It's fine. Well, shit. I think I do have to take this call.
It's okay, go ahead. We're
I missed it anyway.
doing
They're
it.
busy.
But look at the so there's this come on, focus. Do you see that red
Yeah.
smear on his jacket?
Yes. Yeah, you know what that could be?
Yeah, there it goes. See, that's like two notes. There's like two separate strokes. And then look at this, and then look at her head.
Okay. Oh, fancy.
Do you see how it's like it's a very similar red keynote?
I do.
It's almost like the exact same stroke.
Yeah, yeah. Is she's not in the same picture, or is she?
No, but
Okay.
they're both Degas. So I was just trying to make a connection between that and that.
Right.
Almost
right.
almost on a stroke for stroke basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. How
Yeah.
cool is that?
And then this is the other one. This is the one that was like, super convincing to me. And here is, so now they're obviously different genders or whatever, but they're almost exactly the same orientation, like the way the treatment of the corner of the mouth. Maybe I can zoom in further, because I'm limited by the book on this one.
Yeah. Are you saying the profiles of the two?
Yeah.
Oh, I was looking for another red note. Okay. Oh, wow. Wow.
So just like the diffused eyebrow, the dark note at the corner of the earlobe, the general, like the generalization of that ear, that the treatment of his chin into the neck being, defined by that V shape. And then even just like the way that he, paints the male collar, versus the female collar, they're different elements, but they're almost like conceived of in the same way. Same with like the treatment of the forehead. I mean, look at the angles with which he builds the the planes, even the subtle corner of the nostril flare. It's a light nostril flare up against a neutral background, which is the exact same treatment down here. And then the dark edge at the corner of the nose. I don't know, if you were to have someone in the studio, you would have them take kind of consistent poses, have your sitters take, similar poses over time. And, this feels very typical. Yeah. Someone in the same ballpark. That was one of them. And then, in the next minute here, is the
Wow. Is that another a little like a flash of red that went by?
do you see the lips, how they, I mean, this is the lips are lit from below, but do you see how they're it's mostly darks, and then they kind of build up, and there's a huge difference between the upper lip and the lower lip in terms of the neutrality of the reds. And then you see that one red note right there?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
one little clip, and there's like another clip right there. So if I introduce the lips that we're working with, you have it's an earlier portrait from an earlier time, but you still have in here the upper lip is the one that's receiving the light. So compare the upper lip here to the lower lip here, and then the upper lip here to the lower lip here, still red, still full, and then this 1 to 2 high intensity pink notes in that mouth. It's pretty convincing. Okay, ladies, I have to go. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna sit back and enjoy this video. Good
All
to
right,
see
cool. Yeah,
everyone.
I'll send it to you as soon as it's done.
Oh, that's right. I can't see it immediately. Okay, yeah, please do.
All right, guys, if you don't mind signing off, that would be great, because I don't know how to do
Sure.
it otherwise.
Yeah. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. Bye,
Bye.
Del. Bye, Grace. Thank you guys so
Bye-bye.
much.
You.
All right, let's see. All right, Stace, gotta go.
I'm trying to sign off.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
All right, bye. Okay, Georgia. Hey, Georgia.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yes, thank
Can
you.
can you see me as well
I
or
can see you. Yeah, can you see me?
fantastic. Yeah, I can see you. Fantastic.
All right,
Hi,
cool.
how are you doing?
I'm great. Let me stop the share here. I just had I was just in a class and
Okay, no problem.
yeah, no worries. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, very good. Is it I guess it's like middle of the day for you guys, isn't it?
The noon time, exactly. Yeah, end of the day for
Whereabouts
you.
exactly are you then? Is it Baltimore?
Yeah, North Baltimore County. So
Nice,
kind of
nice.
near the Pennsylvania line.
Fantastic. Very, very lovely.
What
Well,
about
I
you?
mean, I'm in Bristol, if you've heard of it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah. It's very nice little city. Bit like a mini London, but without it's not as expensive, I guess.
That's
Although
good.
it's getting there now. So but yeah, but no, thank you for speaking to me this afternoon.
Sure.
It was just kind of really just an initial chat with you about the artworks that you've got. I sent them to Philip, you know, who the art historian on the show, and he was quite interested in the Courbet and the Sergeant, definitely.
Okay.
He the first so should we think about the Courbet first?
Right.
So my only concern with this one is that there's no provenance, is there? There's nothing. There's nothing for us to kind of look into, if that makes sense.
Well, so there is an auction house that I got it. Now I went and tried to dig around, and they said that it came from a like an art dealer, excuse me, an antiques dealer, an old antiques dealer from Baltimore. They knew who it was, but they couldn't give out that information. I mean, if you went digging, you know, I can give you the name of the auction house. I actually know some of the guys there. I might even be able to go back and find out more. I went back
Fantastic. Is
relatively
the auction
early
house
on.
Alex Cooper by any chance?
It is, yeah.
It is. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that's fine. Brilliant.
Because you should be able to find those auction records too.
Yes, no,
19,
exactly.
I think it was like 19th century French landscape is what it was titled.
Century French. Yeah, I mean, I think when it doesn't work is if someone's kind of bought something off eBay and there's absolutely no provenance, and then we're just stuck because we can't really do anything. But if you bought yours from an auction house, then at least kind of they might not be able to tell you at the time where it was from, because personal information and everything, and people like to be kind of be anonymous. But I guess from there we could maybe speak to them, and if they knew that we were trying to get the provenance of the painting, then they might be more willing to kind of give us more details on it.
I think they would. They're pretty. I mean, they're pretty easy to work with.
Perfect, great. So it was Alex Cooper. Do you remember who you spoke to? Who you kind of dealt with specifically? Is there someone that would probably remember the sale? No,
I don't really know. There's like so.
Remind me when you bought when you bought the Courbet one.
It's a family business.
Yeah.
So there's this. The son is in charge now.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought the Courbet probably 4 years ago.
Okay, 4 years ago. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I think with that one, it looks quite promising. You've got a good eye. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And
I mean, I went to Musée d'Orsay like last week or 2 weeks ago, and
oh, fantastic!
It was like, I mean, it just felt so good. I mean, it just was amazing. I mean, it felt as exhilarating as when I first bought it.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it's just inspiring.
Do you mind me roughly asking how much you paid for it? Just, you don't have to give me a figure, but just so we understand. No, really.
I do not mind at all, because it'll feed into the story. I paid I think I paid $275 for it.
$275. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. And so my whole theory about how it slipped through the cracks is that it was dirty. Even dirty, you could tell the magnificence of the design though. That was just like, next level. That's how I picked it up, and I was like, it just looks like a freaking Courbet. But in the States, we have you know the artist Bob Ross.
Yes, I've heard
Yeah.
Bob
So
Ross.
Bob Ross,
Yeah,
happy trees,
yeah, yeah.
happy clouds, a cabin in the woods.
Mhm,
A lot of his techniques, honestly, are kind of derivative from Courbet.
mhm,
Impasto, thick
mhm,
strokes,
mhm.
palette knife painting, like loose brush stippling kind of. And
Yes.
there was so much of that like of cheesy bad painting that
Mm,
sell for like $50 or $100 that I think the techniques of the painting without like a clear signature, having compared the signatures at the Musée d'Orsay, many of Courbet's signatures have faded.
yeah.
And all of the strokes without the V are in Courbet's lettering,
Mhm.
which is incredible. So like it's not a signature, but it's a small study. So for me, the signature is actually even more convincing. It's an add-on, not a takeaway. And then the catalog raisonné was done in
Mhm.
like the 60s or the 70s or something, and all
Mhm.
of the pictures are in black and white. And so the only way that you can, and the brilliance of Courbet's signature is that the value is so similar, the red and the green, that in black and white they die, but
Yeah,
in the painting they just
they
revert
pop out.
verbally.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, of
Um,
course.
and
How big is the painting? And it looks. I know it looks rather small. How do you know the dimensions of it?
yeah, no, it's like this is the facsimile. So
Okay. Hmm.
it's a yeah, I guess that is it. Yeah, I mean, I have it. Yeah, but that's how
Okay,
big it is.
fantastic. Okay.
Let me get the exact dimensions. I just looked at it the other day.
Whereabouts is it at the moment then? Is it at your
And yeah, I
home
have it.
or
Yeah, it's 9 by 10, something like that.
9 by 10? Perfect. And yeah, so is it with you in Baltimore or is it with any restorers or?
Yeah, no, it had been. I did get it cleaned. It was not relined,
Mm,
and I have actually a photo of the back of the. This
fantastic.
is a giclée of the back
I
of
think you
it.
might have sent me that actually. I
I
think
think
I
I
might
think I
I think
sent
I
it
might have got that.
originally. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Okay. And sorry, I'm just looking at your original email to see if there's anything. Because you originally emailed, yeah, 2019. Oh yeah, you did say how much it cost. Sorry. Don't know why I didn't ask you that in the first place. And so have you shown it to anyone, any experts, any authentication,
I have
companies?
actually. So there's a former director of the Walters Art Museum. His name is Gary
Mhm.
Vicon. I took it to him first. He's kind of a family friend. He, asked somebody, no one could disprove it.
Yeah.
And he led me to Mary Morton, who's the
Mhm.
19th century French expert, who's actually like on, a part of Institute Courbet.
Yeah.
I I took it physically down to the National Gallery, and we stood on the front steps, and she looked at it and she was like, "You okay?" Yeah. And she'd made a kind of an intro. She had made like kind of a sarcastic comment. Well, if you find any more Courbet still lives, send them my way, because
Yeah.
she had just put together a show. So that was kind of cool. And then she said that we have to take it to Ornan or whatever whenever they meet, or sometimes they do meet in New York, I believe.
Mhm. Okay.
And
And when was that when did you show it to
Mary,
Mary? When about that? How long ago was that?
it was pre-COVID.
Yeah. So probably around 2019.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And yeah, sorry, you were saying they sometimes meet in New York.
Yep. So but I feel like if you were going to tape the show and I don't know I gotta watch your show actually.
Mhm.
Where would I watch the show?
That's a very good question. In the US, I'm not entirely sure. I can definitely get back to you about that. But
Okay.
it's definitely watched in the US, so there must be some way of watching it. I don't know how BBC shows are
Is it
often.
is it on YouTube?
It could be on YouTube. Yeah, I think it actually is. A lot of the old episodes are on YouTube, and the
great.
format has kind of stayed the same, to be totally honest.
Nice. That's good to know. I was just envisioning like Ornan is just such a beautiful part of the world, you know what I mean, a beautiful part of
Yeah,
France.
and we do like to go and travel on the show.
Yeah.
I think the last series they didn't really get to do that much of that because of COVID, and it was kind of coming out of COVID. They filmed it. I think it was kind of just before the summer, so restrictions were easing, but we couldn't really get people from the States over or anything like that. Whereas at least things have started to open up again. So it does mean we can travel and get that like nice international feel back into the program, which is what we had before.
So yeah, and I mean, so Courbet was exiled, you know, there.
Yeah.
So I mean, my dream is to go and to actually find the location.
Yeah.
You know, that he or something close to it. You know, if we could find, you know, this piece, I don't know. It's if we could find the drawing, that would be good. But he didn't do a lot. I mean, there's not a whole lot. Anyway, so yeah.
Okay. And have you had any technical analysis done on it, or any kind of?
No,
you've had it cleaned and
just a cleaning.
That's clean. No technical analysis, no X-rays or anything.
Nope.
X-rays. Oh, that's fine. And let me think what else. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful as painting. So yeah, we were quite excited by it when we saw it. I think the one thing that was our concern was the provenance. But I guess if we can get in touch with the auction house and go from there, then at least that puts us to the next step. And then from there, we can get to the next step. I think it was more if you had no idea where you got it from, and it was just like, you know, then that's where we get a bit stuck, and then the show kind of comes to a halt. So I think if Alex Cooper are willing to kind of give us details so that we can continue the provenance, then it definitely is something that we can look into. And
so it's the provenance that gives it its authenticity.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of the time, the kind of art authorities, the artist authorities, not only will they kind of want, you know, the X-rays and the technical analysis and all of this, they will always kind of want some sort of provenance. And, you know, it might not be a full, they will obviously want as much as possible. Right. So if we can, the team are great, and we've got some amazing provenance researchers. So once we can kind of get one person step back, then we can kind of keep going. So obviously if we can speak to Alex Cooper and at least get, you know, the name of where it was bought, it came from.
The name is known.
Yeah. So it's not like it just turned up on their doorstep and they have no idea where it came from. Right. So I think if they're happy to kind of work with us and look at it and look at the history of where it came from, then I think we could probably go from there. Okay. But so yeah, do you have anything else to add for this painting, or is there anything that you haven't mentioned in your emails? Or
no, there's nothing really about the painting. But you know, the art history, I mean, I'm curious about how they, I'm just curious about how, I think it would be interesting to have eyes on the art historians themselves when they get together and they show the slides and they look at the piece and like kind of what goes on in their thinking.
I mean, they never let us into that bit, I don't think, sadly.
They probably wouldn't.
I think a lot of art authorities are quite reluctant to show us how they get to that authentication process.
Right.
I think because they were definitely reluctant maybe to show it on TV because of, I guess, future forgers can kind of see how they got to that. That's kind of our understanding of it, maybe, is that they don't want to give the game away too much of how it's all kind of worked out for them, because then they're kind of, exposing everything. Sure. But yeah, I guess that's the next step as well, is also getting the art authority on board. So at the end of you'll see when you watch an episode, it's a full hour of investigating. So it was normally about 6 months worth of research that we do as the BBC. Right. Once we decide which paintings we're going to go with, or which artworks we're going to go with, we'll have like a team of, say, like an assistant producer like me, and then a producer, and then we'll kind of work together with a team of specialists to do about 6 months worth or so of research. And but at the end of that, we would have to film kind of a verdict, obviously, to find
Right.
out whether it's more authentic or not. And that verdict has to come from whoever the art authority is. So obviously with this, it would be the Courbet kind of committee society. And we would have to get them on board before filming.
Right.
We would have to, not necessarily to work with us. I mean, I think some of them have a more hands-on approach and they want to know what we're doing. Some of them don't. Some of them just want to give us a yes or no answer at the end. But as long as we have them, you know, willing to, at the end of the show, once we've provided like a dossier of evidence to them, if they'll have to be willing to kind of say yes or no, you know, yes, it is authentic, or no, it's a fake, or occasionally they've said we just can't make up our minds, which is a bit annoying for everyone involved, obviously. Whoever the owner is, you know, our team, because we spent months researching, all the specialist researchers. But that's the kind of one of the steps we have to overcome, is getting the authority to actually take part in some way at the end of the show. But that's something, you know, further along the line. And yeah, so that's the Courbet. What about the Sergeant then? Did that also come from Alex Cooper?
It did, yeah.
Yes.
And
Fantastic.
it's actually my friend's drawing. I found it and I couldn't. I can't remember what I think we spent like $6,000, $5,000, something like that. And you know, it felt very true, and I was like, I couldn't let it go, but I actually I couldn't like just drop 5,000 on that thing. So my friend Sarah Morton is she's a painter. She actually lives in Cologne. And you know, so I would kind of have to put you in touch with
her.
And then, but she might just be like, not want to have anything to do with it. And she's like, yeah, just go with it, like go run with it. So, I mean, we're like really good friends. So it's, I don't know what I can tell her whatever you're thinking.
Okay, fantastic. And so was it her or was it you that sent it to, have you had anyone kind of look at it?
No, we haven't had anyone look at it. So it was sold to us and we researched it, and I guess there is it's still up for review for whatever Sergeant organization society there is. And it was on hold for held up.
And was it the auction house that got in touch with
no, it was Sarah got in touch with those.
Sarah got in touch with them. Okay, that's fine. Because we know Richard Ormond quite well, who is the authority on Sergeant. Yeah. So I guess. So do you know roughly when she got in touch with them? Was it
probably last year?
Like a year ago. Around 2020. Okay, and let me just have a look. So that was fine.
So not impressed by the Degas.
Yeah, he didn't really comment on that one, which is do you think that's the more convincing one out of them all?
I mean, I think
I can definitely show it to him again.
Yeah, I would show it to him again. I mean, if you look at there's so many signature Degas paint, like his palette is exactly the same, like his tree. I mean, I was just showing my class actually.
Yeah.
Like the lips that like established Degas, he does all of his tricks, like it's full of like Degas tricks, and it would just be weird that somebody would do a forgery for a piece that's like so small, and like not like impressive. The other interesting thing about it is that it's been relined, which actually means that it was probably and that does have provenance in the sense that at one point it said that it came from the Christie's auction house says that it came from Michael J. Fox's collection.
Yes, I saw that in your email.
Now it was relined, so in order for somebody to pay like a Degas price, like they're not going to buy a relined painting. So the restoration work, like that could be an aspect of the show, like an aspect of the research that you do, where it's like, well, we have this painting, but we then have to and then there could be a freaking signature on the back for all we know.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
Degas didn't, like, we went to Musée d'Orsay, compared it to the Degas room, and there were like 20 paintings, and I think 4 of them had signatures. Like Degas didn't sign his paintings.
Didn't always sign his paintings.
Especially not on the front, certainly.
Mhm.
And especially when they were like kind of portraits like that, like kind of like a formal commission piece. Anyway, I mean, and that's the big payout. I mean, a new Degas, I mean, Courbet, when I was in Paris and we were talking to Michael Schulman, who's the Degas authority or whatever. He was like, you can buy a car, maybe a Lamborghini with a Courbet, but you're not going to buy a house. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, with the Degas, that's good. That would be a big deal.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So
and
like
how did you leave it with him? What was his kind of?
Yeah, I mean, he was like, he was very intrigued by it. He, thinks like, he's not a painting connoisseur the way like Sarah and I are. So he came at it kind of from more of like a art historian perspective, where it's like, you got to dig for, if you can find out who the sitter is, if you can find a drawing that correlates to it, if you can find any record of it, like at the National Archives. That's what he recommended, the Library of Congress, actually. So there's still more digging to be done, but I mean, I've been looking at it and comparing it to these other Degas and to the pastels, and every component of it, you can see, every stylistic component to this piece you can see in other Degas.
Okay.
So
well, I will show it to
deal.
Philip again. Maybe he was just too distracted by the other two that he
right.
kind of,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I could totally see that, because it's not the most glamorous. Whereas the Courbet is just a freaking drop dead knockout home run.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's really, really.
And the Sargent is so compelling too. With like kind of Orientalist feel, being a child subject, which Degas did, or Sargent did a lot of.
Yes.
It's like, and it's so clear with his technique and his strokes and his paper and his signature, and that's all there too. I mean, both of those pieces, they're all there. I think that the Degas might be a little bit more work, but I mean, I think it's
like work.
Yeah. And with the relining, if you did the restoration aspect of it, and you get to go into the lab and like do that whole thing,
exactly.
That I think that something will be revealed. And you got Michael J. Fox. I mean, Michael J. Fox is a major celebrity that I believe is still alive. I know he's suffering with Parkinson's or whatever. And I was going to tweet at him. It was like,
shows your records.
Was this your painting?
Yeah.
I mean? So, I mean, that is also another home run for the show.
Where did you get the Degas from? Where was that? Was that from Alex Cooper as well?
I was from Alex Cooper, but then they had their but that came from Christie's. So the jump before that was Christie's. And I was like, I couldn't figure out why no one would buy this thing. And I think it's not because it's not a Degas necessarily. I think it's because it's ugly. And for people that aren't obsessed with Degas, I mean, I think it's the most beautiful thing ever. And it's lined. No one these days is going to buy a relined painting for any substantial amount of money. Yeah. And a Degas would be a ton of money. So you're taking on a whole bunch of headaches buying this painting, and it's not that pretty. So it's like, and it's not, I mean, it's characteristic, I think, of his early portraits. It's not characteristic of what everybody knows Degas to be. In terms of the ballerinas and
of course. And such. Of course. Well, I'll definitely show it to Philip again and see what he says. Obviously, I can't promise anything. He kind of, gets to make the but yeah, definitely we'll look into that one again. And so I think really the next step is for me to speak to Alex Cooper, someone at Alex Cooper, obviously, to try and get at least some sort of provenance for the Courbet, at least, because it is such a beautiful painting. And it would be, if we can, crack one next step, then it gets easier to crack the next and the next. So I think that's probably my next step. And with the sergeant, I guess, I think we'd maybe struggle if I guess if your friend didn't want to be part of the show, it might be a bit tricky because I think we tend to want to have the owners involved.
Okay. I mean, you can look
Speak
her
to
up. I mean,
her.
she's a great,
Yeah.
she's actually
Sarah Morton, you said.
Yeah, Sarah McCrae Morton.
McCrae Morton.
MCREA.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, I'll call. I'll speak to her and just let him know that you're really interested.
Yeah, it would. At this point, we're kind of we're looking at stories for next series. So I basically the inbox that you wrote into. I think we had like 4,000 submissions or something.
Right.
So I've kind of spent the last 6 weeks just going through that, which has been, some of the stuff you can imagine comes in and you're just like, straight away it's nothing. Yeah, you're just like, okay. And then something catches your eye and you think like your emails and you think, okay, this is definitely something to look into.
Yeah.
So at this moment in time, we're having kind of, it's a shame you guys obviously aren't in the UK because we tend to have like a gallery day where we invite people to come in, people in the UK to come in and kind of show us the paintings and kind of meet people. But obviously all the people that we've spoken to in the US and abroad, there's people in Australia, and because the show is just very worldwide.
Cool.
Yeah, we haven't obviously aren't able to do something like that. But those high res images you sent of the Courbet are really great. That was such a great, lovely image. You can really kind of see exactly what it looks like there. So that's good. So yeah, I think the next step is for me to speak to Alex Cooper, if that's okay.
Sure.
I actually emailed them for something else for another sergeant that Richard Ormond had spoken to me about. But I guess now we have this as well. We can kind of maybe have a look at them both at the same time. So, and then I'll speak to them about the Courbet as well and see if they're able to give us a bit more information.
Good. That would be cool. Yeah, like I said, they did tell me that they came from an auction house in Baltimore and they did know who it was, but they weren't like, they didn't like feel comfortable or something like that. But like they can, I think they even told me that they were going to contact the person, and then it never felt it like they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But the Degas is in Germany. So
Degas is in Germany.
It could make its way to your gallery day.
Is that when we're doing it early next week? So it's probably a little bit too short notice, sadly. But
it's too short notice for you or for us?
Probably for both, because I don't know if we can fit. Well, I could definitely speak to the team, but we wouldn't. I think we wouldn't want you to kind of bring something all that way. Especially when we have technology these days and we can try and but so the Degas with Sarah, is it as well?
Correct. Right.
Yeah, so the Degas and the sergeant are with Sarah.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, brilliant.
Do you want her contact?
I mean, if you want to speak to her first,
okay,
see, put some feelers out there and see how she kind of reacts to it, and is she keen, or if she wants to speak to me or the producer and just find a little bit more information. And also at this moment in time, we can't confirm anything for next series because we're looking at I think we've got about 20 different stories in play that we're kind of looking at, and we'll only need 4, sadly. So
wait, so you have 20 stories and you land on 4?
Yeah, we've got like loads of kind of stories that are ticking along, and we'll have to obviously we only get commissioned 4 episodes each year. So we'll hopefully get commissioned next year as well. So whatever doesn't happen this year could potentially roll into next year's filming, as in like 2023, not 22. But I think the next step is for me to really just speak to Alex Cooper. Or someone at Alex Cooper and just see if they can, because if without them giving us any provenance on the Courbet, it's kind of impossible for us to do anything further with that, because we can look at something stylistically and do all the analysis and everything, but it probably wouldn't fill an hour's worth of programming, and it probably wouldn't be enough for us to get a decision from an authority, because that's just how they are.
Yeah.
And so it would kind of be quite pointless trying to go down that rabbit hole without even knowing if there was going to be anything to gain from it. But yeah,
so what should we do with Institute Courbet? How does that go?
Let's hold off for now.
Get in the queue? Like, should I do anything to get into the?
I think the best thing would be to hold off for now.
Okay.
If I can get something with the provenance for the Courbet, then at least from there we can think, okay, there's definitely some history, like some digging we can do with the provenance.
Mhm.
And then with that, we can then maybe
Pull the
contact
trigger.
this, and then say, look, we've got this is his painting, we're starting to dig into the provenance, we can do all this analysis, etc. Would you be willing to give us a verdict at the end when we submit this? And if they say no, go away,
Right.
then the producers that have worked on this show have worked on it for like 10 years, so they've got quite good skills at speaking to these institutions and kind of convincing them to take part. But then sometimes they just don't want to take part, and there's not much we can do. So yeah, I'll hold off from speaking to the institute, because we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Okay. So I'll put some feelers out to Sarah about
just speak to her and see what she says.
The sergeant. And then do you roll multiple pieces into one episode, or is it like each episode dedicated
just one
to
episode
one
per painting, per
Nice.
artwork? So
That's awesome.
it's a whole hour. Have you? Yeah, you should definitely watch the show.
I'm like, as soon as we're off the phone, I'm gonna go dig in.
It's really great, and it's just some good old classic detective skills by the presenters and by us, and then obviously there's all the kind of like new technologies that we have now that are always just incredible. If you think about how far we've come in like being able to authenticate these works compared to like 50, even 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely watch an episode so you can kind of get an idea of what the show is about as well. And I'm actually I'm not in the office tomorrow. I'm out on a recce, but I will speak to my producer on Monday and kind of feedback from our call, and then I'll get in touch with Alex Cooper and we can kind of go from there. And then obviously I can't promise anything for the show, but definitely in the running for kind of looking at next series. So
good. Georgia, thank you so much.
It's been lovely to speak to you. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day, and if there's anything that you've forgotten, just send it over in an email.
All right,
or any questions. All right, speak soon. Cheers. Bye.